These pictures are not from an extreme action film, but were recently shot at the start of the Pilatus Porter trip to Nepal. The aircraft is filled to capacity with equipment, but still takes off effortlessly. The flight is to commemorate a similar expedition in 1960.
Das Flugzeug wird in den Himalayas fliegen und nach dem geheimnisvollen Yeti suchen. So beginnt der Angriff auf den Dhaulagiri in Zürich-Kloten.
2 pilots of that first Himalaya expedition have come to take a look at the latest model of the Pilatus aircraft. The young crew explain to the veterans the route they've chosen. The aircraft has been designed for the Nepalese airline Yeti. Today, like 50 years ago, this kind of aircraft is ideal for the high mountains in Nepal. The original Pilatus Porter, painted in bright colours, reached its destination after more than a dozen adventurous stops. The aircraft was exposed to wind and weather.
The
flight alone to Nepal without the Dhaulagiri expedition was a big adventure.
The mountaineers and pilots still remember some very strange encounters.
In
Iran, someone wanted to sell us a slave. We said no thanks, but he insisted, saying he had plenty of Africans to sell, the equivalent of 6 francs.
After 2 weeks, the team reached Kathmandu. The plane landed on the main square in front of the king's palace, among a cheering crowd of thousands of people. The goal of the expedition was the 8,167-metre-high Dhaulagiri, which had yet to be climbed at that point in time.
The second last unconquered 8,000-metre peak. 7 expeditions had already tried before us, unsuccessfully.
The number 13 brought luck to the Swiss. The 13-man team reached the summit on May 13, 1960, and without oxygen. The Dhaulagiri is notorious for its sudden weather changes. The Swiss were the first to ever use a transport aircraft to stock up the camps, landing on a glacier up to an altitude of 5,600 metres. But the aircraft eventually crash-landed, and most of it is still on the Himalayan glacier.
Suddenly, the pilot found himself holding the steering wheel, which had come loose. We were lucky because the plane landed on a steep slope, slid down, and was stopped by rocks. That's when it was damaged.
The Pilatus Porter PC-6 is still in production. The engines have changed, but the aerodynamics are almost the same. Today's pilots are happy with it. Instead of passengers, the aircraft has been filled with equipment and petrol tanks, so that the flight to Nepal needs less refuelling stops. Cat litter replaces the missing toilet on board, and the provisions must last until Nepal.
The main problem with such a long flight is the weather. The aircraft is equipped with weather radar, very helpful.
But we don't have the autopilot, which means we actually fly for 7 hours at a time. Also, with the beginning of the monsoon between India and Nepal, we'll be hit by rain.
So after 50 years, the Pilatus Porter is flying high and still not ready to be grounded.